Good morning, everyone. Welcome to this edition of our Tech Talk. Good morning, Christoph.
Good morning, Carsten. Hello.
So welcome. It's nice to be here again at our Zeichsel studio in Germany. So today we have a full agenda with a lot of items. We will talk about Wi-Fi and we have a Wi-Fi special.
Yes, so we will talk about the new standard Wi-Fi 6E, which we will have in our new devices that will be launched probably and hopefully next month. They will be available to buy. And we will look at the specs of the protocol and the enhancements. And also we are talking about new features in the 640 firmware.
Yes, absolutely. And which products can be used for that, also legacy products. So that's very interesting.
Exactly.
So before we start, we invite you, if you have anything that you would like to ask us, then please make use of the question window that we have on this console.
Right.
And the nice thing is that's the reason why we also have this event as a live event, so that you can, during the session, ask questions. So
it's always nice if we make it a bit more interactive, that you ask some questions. If something was unclear, this helps us as well to improve for the next Tech Talk. So
yes,
if there's anything unclear, feel free to ask.
Yes,
we will also have a small lab today again.
Yeah.
So our colleagues in Taiwan provided us with remote access to one of the new access points, and we will have a look at the new GUIs.
And the reason for that is that we don't have the hardware here at the moment.
Yeah.
They are somewhere stuck on the delivery process.
The launch was planned for next month, and so we are still aiming to have the devices ready for next month.
Yeah. So we didn't get any pre-device, unfortunately, but anyway, we have access to our colleagues in Taiwan, and they have granted us access. And we are very positive, and that the devices will be here next week. So.
Yep.
Next week, next month, both is correct.
We'll see. So I start the screen sharing.
Perfect. So let's go into the agenda for today. And as mentioned already, we will look into new hardware, new features. We will look into new software. So that's super interesting. And we will go into detail for one or the other feature. We will look into the standard for the Wi-Fi 6E.
Yes, the differences between the old protocols and Wi-Fi 5 and Wi-Fi 6 without the E. So
6E, yes. And then we look into the software, the GUI enhancements, the log enhancements. And then we have one feature also, MAC authentication fallback for the captive portal.
Yeah. So
that's a feature that has been requested by a customer in Europe. And now we are very happy to implement that in our environment. So very, very good. Christoph, let's start with the hardware, I would say. And before we do that, just for information, this Tech Talk is recorded as always, and you are invited to look it up again if you want, the material as well as the recording at academy.zeichsel.eu. There you can find all the recordings, the material.
Also the previous Tech Talks. We had some interesting sessions. You might have missed that. And
yes, the most interesting session I found out the other day was about VLAN.
VLAN basics. That's also something, we will do in the future again, not with switches, but with our firewalls, that we have some basic Tech Talks. But we will show this later.
Yeah, just for information, you can find all the recordings there, the material. You will find also the material for today, even a bit more maybe. Yeah. And there you also have the certification program. If you want to certify yourself as a Zeichsel engineer, then you can do so.
Right.
Having said that, to log into all these platforms, you always have the SSO. So one password, one username, and then we have the partner portal, the support portal, the Campus Academy. So please try it out. Having said that, now we go for the hardware.
Okay, so in July, we plan to launch 3 new devices, 1 triple mode and triple radio access point, and 2 dual radio access points, 1 in triple mode and 1 in dual mode. So let me explain what the difference here is. So triple mode is something internal from Zeichsel. So triple mode is for us, it can be managed by a controller, it can be managed by Nebula and managed in standalone mode.
So that's only applicable to the WAX 640S.
And the WAX 620S. So all our WAX series is triple mode.
Yes, that's a controller in addition. Otherwise, it's only in brackets, standalone or Nebula.
Yes, this is our NWA series.
Correct.
That we already have. And with the new Wi-Fi 6E standard, we will introduce the NWA 220AX-6E as a dual mode access point. So we have kind of 2 models. with two different hardware specifications. We have our flagship model, the 640S-6E. That's a Wi-Fi 6.3 radio AP. So triple radio means it can provide 3 radios simultaneously. That means 2.4 gigahertz, 5 gigahertz, and 6 gigahertz at the same time.
And that's very important to know that you can run all 3 bands at the same time in comparison to the other one we have on the right side.
Exactly. So for the 6 gigahertz, for the new 6 gigahertz band, we have 4x4 multi-MIMO antenna. For the 5 gigahertz, 2x2, and for the 2.4 gigahertz, also 2x2, and all of them can be used at the same time. So it's kind of 3 access points in one.
So it must be super difficult to configure that in the access point, isn't it?
We made some enhancements in our GUI for the standalone. In Nebula, it's again just a checkbox that we need to tick to enable the 6 gigahertz. I will show this later.
Okay,
in the
perfect.
Short lab.
How does it look when it comes to devices?
So we,
I mean, mobile devices, laptop devices.
Okay, right.
Sorry.
So it's a new standard, and there are not too many end devices yet. I know that maybe for the upcoming iPhone 14, this is planned that Wi-Fi 6E will be supported. I already equipped my laptop with a Wi-Fi 6E cards for new laptops from Dell, Lenovo. They are already equipped now with the new Wi-Fi 6E cards.
I know you're waiting for the access points.
I'm waiting for the access points to do my
Nice.
tests to also experience a 6 gigahertz band. So I'm also excited about the improvements here.
Great.
So on our flagship model, we have a total Wi-Fi capacity of 7.8 gigabit. We have a 2.5 gigabit Ethernet uplink port, which uses PoE BT standard. We can maybe explain the PoE standards later again.
Absolutely.
And we have 1 gigabit Ethernet that you can use as a local bridge port or switch port, for example.
Can you explain, if I have a Wi-Fi capacity of 7.8 gigabits, I hope I have a backbone that is capable of that. But how come that I only have 2.5 gigabit uplink then?
If we think about the real life scenario, it's like that you probably have not only one device connected to your access point. There are multiple devices connected to your access point, and they are all sharing the same medium, the same Wi-Fi channels. It's the same like if you take one of our switches, for example, a normal gigabit Ethernet switch with 24 ports. We have 24 gigabit of capacity, but we don't have a 24 gigabit uplink port.
Absolutely.
That's the same. So this is just real life scenario here that 2.5 gigabit uplink maximum. But in Wi-Fi we have a lot of protocol overhead. So the 7.8 gigabit is just theoretical number that can be reached in a test environment, for example, but since this is a shared medium
with a couple of clients. Talking about clients, how many clients are able to connect to, for example, this flagship access point now? What's our recommendation? What's theoretically possible?
We had some recommendations of 32 per band, but of course this depends on your local environment. If there's a, let's say, high density environment like us, we're in a office building here with multiple offices. Every office has their own access points, and there's a lot of interference. So you need to find a balance.
I think when I search, I see like 20, 25 SSIDs on my mobile.
So if you stretch it to the limit, I think the 640S can easily handle 128 clients simultaneously by using the 3 bands. There's probably more possible that can connect, but at some point of time, you reach the limit.
Of course. Okay, good. But so it's fully capable. We can use it for a large number of clients. It's super fast. I can use all 3 bands at the same time, which is super great. And then it comes along with Nebula Flex Pro license for 1 year.
Yes.
So I have all the management possibilities and features in the Nebula Control Center.
So both WAX devices are Nebula Flex Pro devices. Same like our existing WAX series. It's also Nebula Flex Pro. Comes with a Nebula Control Pro license for 1 year, while the NWA access point is a Nebula Flex access point, which just says, okay, this one can be connected to Nebula.
Okay. And you can run the bands a bit differently with the NWA. So
yes, so the NWA 220AX-6E and the WAX 620, they are both dual radio access points. So you have 2.4 gigahertz plus 6 or 5 gigahertz. So you need to decide as an administrator if you want to use the 6 or the 5 gigahertz band.
Can I run 5 and 6 and just leave out 2.4?
You can do this with the 640S. That is on the left side, but not with the others.
Okay, so 2.4.
It's a hardware limitation. It's just the chipset doesn't allow it, and yeah, it's the design. So it's a let's say small to medium business access point, which doesn't have that high capacity that the 640S is, but it's also then reflected in the price, of course.
But I guess it's also related. So I have to run 2.4 gigabytes always, and I can choose if I want to run 5 and 6.
Yeah.
But I think it's also a legacy thing that we have some old devices that are always falling back to 2.4. So it's kind of a security, or it's kind of a flexibility in the system that all the legacy devices are still working, even if I'm able 6
with 2.4 gigahertz. Yes. So most of the devices, like IoT sensors, even the new ones, they are still on the 2.4 gigahertz band because it has some range reasons. So with 2.4, of course, I have a higher range compared to if I go to higher frequencies.
Yes. Okay. Perfect. So that is very important to know, that you know that with these access points you can run 2.4 and 5 or 6. Yeah, so that's important.
Let's quickly talk about PoE. So the 640S requires PoE++, so 802.1 BT, the BT standard, which delivers up to 40 watts.
I think in total we have 3 standards in PoE, isn't it?
Yes, we have AF, which is the oldest one.
That's PoE, as we call it, pure PoE. And then you have PoE+.
We have PoE+, which is the AT standard. All the access points here run with the AT standard, also both the two on the right side. But the left one will disable in some antenna if you connect it to a switch, it just delivers the AT standard.
Okay, I see. So, and the last standard for the PoE, the PoE++?
PoE++ is BT. It starts with 40 watts, up to 40 watts. There are new standards which even allow higher inner power, but we don't need this. 640S needs around 30 watt. And if you don't have a PoE BT switch, you can also use a power supply unit that is delivered.
Since we are kind of in a situation that we should save energy as much as possible, what's the consumption of such an access point?
At least for the left one, it's maximum 30 watts. Of course, this depends on the load of the access points and of how many clients are connected. I think 30 watts maximum, and an idle around 5, I would say.
Okay. So if it's normal use, then it's kind of 5 to 10 watts. If it's extensively used with additional devices and a lot of clients and a lot of traffic, then it could be up to 30 to 40 watts.
Yeah, 30 maximum. The power supply just delivers 30 watts. Okay. That's the maximum.
Yeah, that's true. That's straightforward. Good. Thank you for that.
So these are the new devices. They are planned for next month.
Yes.
And they will extend our current Wi-Fi 6 portfolio and our current Wi-Fi 5 access points. We still have 2 that are available, the WAC 500 and 500H.
Yes, perfect. Good. So that's the introduction of the new hardware. Now coming to the new firmware.
Yeah, just mentioned all the devices. So the 640 firmware will be available on all our WAX and on our WAC 500 series. It comes with Wi-Fi 6E support, so we will have the 6 gigahertz option. We are having some enhancements in mesh. It's now supporting dynamic VLANs on mesh. I will show this in a graph later.
Super cool and reduces configuration a lot, especially also a lot of support cases, because customers are calling, it doesn't work. Did I forget anything? And then we help them.
But we automate this process a bit. We will explain this later. We have some enhancement in client steering. So there is some more granular options possible to enhance your roaming. And we have some log enhancements. It's now more easier for the technicians to determine what causes Wi-Fi issues.
Correct, genau. And then we have a Nebula only feature.
That's one Nebula only feature that has been added. It's a Mac auth fallback to captive portal. We will also look into this feature later, and it's also quite interesting and saves some time and stress for employees and the technicians.
I like the feature a lot. It gives a lot of more security for the employer or for the person running actually the network. And What can you say, Christoph, when it comes to Nebula only or standalone only feature implementation?
Yeah, it always depends on the requirements. So theoretically, we have more features available in standalone than in Nebula, but there are some features that are currently in Nebula only, and it's mostly features that are related to, let's say, cloud services. Like captive portal is a bit different in Nebula. We have DPPSK, which allows administrators to give out personal private keys for Wi-Fi, and with this DPPSK, I can also then assign specific VLANs per user or restriction. So it depends on the requirements. Of course, with Nebula, you are more flexible in your configuration and maintenance, of course. But in a classical on-premise scenario, you have some more granular options when it comes to your configuration.
I myself am a big fan of Nebula, I have to say, because you have a great accessibility of the equipment and you can configure it very nicely.
Yeah.
And not to forget that most of the features that we have in standalone are also moved over to Nebula and vice versa. We could easily see this feature, which is Nebula only, moving into a standalone as well. So we are trying to mix that as much as possible.
Yes.
And make use of the platforms we have as much as possible. Good. Thanks for that.
Yeah. Okay. Coming to the new Wi-Fi 6E standard. So
before we go there, Wi-Fi 6E, is it rolled out in every country already, or can I use it in any country in Europe or the global?
That's a good question. So, of course, Wi-Fi 6E requires a new band, the 6 gigahertz band. It's an unlicensed band that, but it needs to be allowed by the country. So for the EU region and Switzerland, for example, and also for the UK, there is a part of the 6 gigahertz band allowed. I will show this in a graphic later. For US, for example, they have allowed the complete 6 gigahertz band starting from 5.9.
They have a lot more channels then.
Yeah. I will show this in a graph later. There are a lot of more channels now available.
So it's important that you configure the device and tell the device in which country you are.
This is always important. You need to fulfill, of course, your local regulations. Otherwise, you easily have someone knocking at your door. Hey, what are you doing there with your Wi-Fi?
I see. But you could configure it differently, but you're not allowed. So you have to follow the legal implementation. Yes. Otherwise, you might get someone visiting you unexpectedly. Right. All right, let's jump into the Wi-Fi 6E details.
So Wi-Fi 6E, it extends all the features that we already had with Wi-Fi 6, and it's implemented on the 6 gigahertz band. We have a graph here. So the 6 gigahertz band goes from 5.9 gigahertz to 7.1 gigahertz, and it's divided in 4 categories or 4 partitions.
You mentioned earlier, to me at least, what does UNNI stand for?
It's a abbreviation for unlicensed network. I don't know. So
okay,
it's official standard.
I can't remember myself, but you had it
so
yeah.
But it's just partitioning the frequency band. It has nothing to do with Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
It can also, for example, in this Uni 4, there's a 5 gigahertz band, and within this there's weather radar and so on.
Yeah,
but this 5 to 8 is just limited to Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
Which is also one of the big enhancements.
Yeah. So the interference is much less.
There is no interference with other technologies, which is one of the main benefits here.
Right.
I have a table later, and I will show this to you.
Perfect. That's very important. And in the EU, we are then allowed channels between 1 and 93.
Yes, 1 and 93. So, for example, with 2.4, we had 13 or in some countries 14 channels maximum. With Wi-Fi 5 or 5 gigahertz, we had a few more. Now we have 233 new channels.
Yeah.
And we can use 93 of them in Europe.
Yeah, perfect. But then there is, so to say, we are not using every channel to make sure that there is isolation between the channels.
I will explain this. This is a good point. It's called PSE, but
okay,
I will show this. So yeah, we have 93 channels, and here we can quickly compare the 3 bands that we have. So with 2.4 gigahertz, we were let's say limited to use 3 channels at the same time. That's called 3-channel deployment, what we always recommend, so 1, 6, 11.
Yeah.
With a 5 gigahertz band, we could, in 80 megahertz channel bandwidth, channel width, up to 6 channels simultaneously. With the 6 gigahertz, we can use up to 14.
Yeah, it's a big difference then.
So we have the complete band of 6 gigahertz, and there are much more channels available. And yeah, it's already the preparation for Wi-Fi 7, which will it's planned to launch end of next year, which allows also channel width up to 320 megahertz, and there are theoretical speeds up to 40 gigabits possible.
I want to see the big backbone for that, yeah. So
that's lab test, but
of course, yeah. But okay, Wi-Fi 6 gives us a lot of more bands, more possibilities, less interference.
Yes, so the channels are less utilized. We have the higher speed, and it's already the preparation for the next Wi-Fi standard.
Perfect.
So talking about the channels that you have just mentioned, so we call it, or it's called by the standard preferred scan channel. And the 93 available channels that we have are now, let's say, condensed into 6 available channels that we can use. It's for the Uni 5, it's 5, 21, 37,
and 53,
69, 85.
And this is these channels are not a Zyxel specific implementation. It's an industry standard.
It's an industry standard. So we have all these channels theoretically available on the band, but that doesn't mean that the Wi-Fi standard uses. Wi-Fi standard divides this into 6 other sections.
Main channels, so
to reduce the interference. So channels are overlapping. If I have, let's say, channel 5 and I have a 160 megahertz channel width, this is overlapping then with the 10 next channels.
Correct.
Of course, to reduce this channel overlapping and the interference, we have reduced this to 6 channels that can be used. And this is called PSC channel. And when we go to the next picture, we can also see this in our GUI, that in the Wi-Fi 6 options in the 6 gigahertz band, we are limited to the PSC channels that are available in that country.
And PSC channels are also there so that clients can attach faster, isn't it?
Yes. So imagine, let's explain quickly how this works. So if a client wants to connect to an SSID or scans SSIDs, it starts at 1, and then it takes around 100 milliseconds then before he goes to the second channel. And going then to 93 channels in the Uni 5 section takes a bit of time. And if the client just needs to scan 6 channels or the PSC channels, it's connecting much faster to the access point.
Perfect. And it's very easy to configure. You see it on the left side on the standalone. You have a drop down. You can just select from there.
There was one nice comment from the customer. So UNI stands for Unlicensed National Information Infrastructure.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. That's very nice.
That's great. So, and on the right side, we do see the Nebula Control Center, how it's configured. It's different, but the same. You can select the channel accordingly. And you can only select one channel. That's it.
Yes.
Yes,
per access point. Yeah.
I think you see it on the drop-down menu a bit more intuitive than on the.
Yeah, we need to define on the right side. We have Nebula. These are all the channels that you deploy on all of your access points. Correct. So I can select all of them here.
Yeah.
On the left side, this is per access point.
Yeah, that's important to mention. We will show a bit later the Nebula, the standalone implementation. So the Nebula implementation will come a bit later, but also next month. So good.
So one new feature that is coming with Wi-Fi 6E is multiple BSSID. So previously on the 2.4 and 5 gigahertz band, we had our data frame. And we had beacons or beacon frames that were distributing our SSID information. Previously, every SSID had its own beacon. Now this is all merged into one, and the client can easily get the SSID information out of one frame, and the rest of the airtime is used for the data, which will of course increase the performance.
Perfect. So that would give more space for the data in a package. That makes a lot of sense.
It just assigns more time for data transmission and reduces the time for management frames.
Which is a speed question again.
Yes.
So, and I can see it's only available in 6 gigahertz.
6 gigahertz and Wi-Fi 6E. So this is fixed in the standard and not implemented on 2.4 or 5 gigahertz.
That's not the plan to do that. So it's a standard implementation that we're doing here, and it should boost again the speed of the 6 gigahertz band in the implementation.
Sorry. Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, so I think we can now switch to the GUI enhancements.
Yeah.
So our colleagues in our HQ have provided us with some remote access to our flagship model. So this is 640S-6E. And I will now show the main difference compared to the standalone configuration before.
And there we see the latest 6.4 software running already.
Right.
Good.
So previously it was the following. As an administrator, I have set up my SSIDs. I need to set up my radios, and I need to assign everything together in the third menu. So I need to at least visit 3 menus.
Mm-hmm.
Now this is all a bit merged. So we again go to Object, AP Profile. We skip the radio setup here. And if we, for example, now visit this first SSID, we can see that we have new checkboxes here where we can assign the band.
Yeah.
And this is everything that we need to do.
And this is a 3-band, so I can configure all 3 bands.
Yes, so we have our SSID Zyxel here, for example, and we assign this SSID to all of the 3 bands. And then the configuration is already done for that access point.
Can I use my password, which I have identified for 2.4 and 5, also for 6, or do I have to identify a new password?
Of course, yeah, you could do that. It makes sense to use the same password for the same SSID in all the bands. Otherwise, it will cause trouble because you cannot really control it in your end device which band it is used. Of course, you can do it, but it's unnecessary maintenance.
Of course.
So recommendation and best practice, yeah, use the same password for every band. Security profile-wise, nothing has really changed, so you can still click here.
And this is where I define the standard, the WPA.
Yes, either here from the quick link, or you like always go to your security profile, create them, and then you can assign them per SSID.
Perfect. So that's very easy. Just a click, and I enable the 6 gigahertz band as well.
Right. So this is the main difference. You save some time here. Of course, you always have the possibility to use the wizard, which I also recommend. Then you don't forget anything. It will just guide you through the available settings in 5 steps. This is always available here in the top bar.
It's important to mention the wizard is not only available once at the beginning when you start up the access point. You can, by clicking on this button, always access it back again and change configuration that you might have forgotten, or you want to rerun the wizard again.
So in the AP management section, where you previously also needed to assign the SSIDs to the radios, it's of course still there, but looks a bit different now. We now have for this access point 3 radios available that we can use. We can also, for example, make use of our 3 radio access points by creating mesh environments. So we can still use 2 radios and use 1 dedicated for mesh. We're not losing anything. And again, here, if we click on the checkbox, we are visiting our SSID again and can assign the bands.
Very straightforward, very easy implementation, I would say. It's a great enhancement.
So this was a standalone configuration.
We still have some slides around that, which we will not share now, but it's part of the package that you will get afterwards. So you can have a look at that once again.
Yep. Let's quickly look into Nebula. I don't have access to the new Nebula right now.
Yeah, it hasn't been launched yet. We are waiting a bit more. It will be launched in July, so that's very positive.
The configuration will be done in the radio settings in the access points section. Besides the 2.4 and 5 gigahertz that you already know, you have the 6 gigahertz option available, where you can basically do the same radio configuration like in the standalone and like in the other menus. This is the new option here. And for the dual radio access points, we have the band flex option, where we then can decide the preferred band if the access point should use 5 gigahertz or 6 gigahertz.
Yeah. Band flex option.
It's two new menu options. I think it's quite easy to understand. It's again just a checkbox here. 6 gigahertz is enabled per default in the band in the Nebula. Then, if your access points does this, and with the band flex, you have the option to configure this.
It's very easy and very straightforward. So that's nice. Good.
So other security regulation on 6 gigahertz radio, it is required to use WPA3.
So WPA2 doesn't work.
Nope. And if you use WPA2, it will be automatically transferred to WPA3 or if you use open, it will be transferred to WPA3 enhanced open.
Okay, good.
So this has already been introduced, I think, 3 years ago.
But automatically the same password will be used for WPA3.
Same password, and nearly every client already, up-to-date client, support that.
Okay. So nothing to worry about. That's good.
Currently, 6 GHz is not available with WEP. Okay, this is anyways not recommended to use, or DBPSK.
Yeah.
DBPSK might follow in the future, but currently it's disabled.
Good. So
this is again the supported country list. So if you select a country where Wi-Fi 6 is not allowed yet, the system will tell you that this is not allowed. You will see it on the log, like here on the standalone AP, and it will disable the 6 GHz radio.
Yeah, it will show you that your the Wi-Fi 6 is not allowed.
There are some Asian countries, and maybe Eastern European, I don't know, where the 6 GHz band is not allowed yet, but in Europe everything is already allowed. And if you select Germany or UK as a country, you will have the
yes. If it's not allowed in your country at the moment, it might be worth to check it on the internet when this is going to come. So the access point at least is able to do that, and if more countries are following, it will be added to our software, and then the firmware update will fix it.
Yeah, you can see this in a list of the website from the Wi-Fi Alliance. I think it's wifi-alliance.org, where there's a list of supported countries.
Good. That's important to set the right country. Yeah.
So this is the same in Nebula. If you select a country which is not allowed, it will show you a message here. And it's also linking the
even
website
linking
here.
the web page there that you can check it up online.
Yeah, but for most for all our European customers, it's not a problem. So
okay.
It's just a side thing that we should mention, and and always, of course, remind again to select the correct country.
Yep, of course. So that's great. Yes, let's jump into the mesh support immediately. The less configuration possibility, I like it a lot. So, Christoph, you will walk us through.
Yes, let me skip a few animations there. So this was a previous setup when I had a mesh route. I need to take care of my VLAN configuration. So if I want to distribute VLAN, maybe via Wi-Fi or cable, I need to configure this manually on every access
point I have in the row. And we can say that in the past we have seen this was exactly the problem for some customers. One was I forgot to do it, and the other one I did some mistakes.
Right.
So
this was often a question, really. So now this is a bit enhanced. So once the AP recognizes that there is traffic from a other VLAN, it will create its VLAN interface.
So it's from one access point given to the other access point and followed until the client has been reached or the VLAN is completely established, and this is automatically done.
Again, save configuration time, and I of course prevent mistakes with that function.
It's perfect. And this all comes with 6.4.
Yes.
And every access point in the row has to run 6.4, otherwise it doesn't work.
Yes, that's right.
Okay, just to make this clear. Good.
So then we have the log enhancements. Sorry. So previously we had logs available if there were problems with Wi-Fi, but let me directly go to the scenarios. No one understood that logs.
It was a bit long, it was a bit misleading, it wasn't really clear. What do I need to do now? So we consolidated all these lines to the green area now to 2 lines. And that gives you a bit more of description. I think this example shows you that somebody has added the wrong password.
Yes, this is a standard thing. So previously we had this here, and now it's, let's say, reduced to this deauthenticated by key handshake fail or blocked by key handshake fail.
Yeah. And then we can do the needed, and it's a bit more clear. So we are trying to enhance that as much as possible. We have a second and a third example, I think. I can move on. Yes, I can do that. So here you see that we have had a wrong combination of username, password, client settings, and so on, and it was rejected in the end.
Yes, by the external radio server. So if you use 802.1x and there are problems with the login, you will now also see it. You will see the username.
That's, I think,
that
quite
failed.
cool. Yeah.
And it's not just limited to reason 23 or reason whatever anymore. And we can also see enhanced logs for external authentication. So it's on the next slide, where we can see then, for example, 802.1x timeout, which could mean that the login server is not reachable, that the configuration is wrong, or that the client or the access point cannot contact it. Maybe wrong IP setup, or the access point is not allowed to contact the radio server, and so on.
What I like a lot is that you don't only have the MAC address, but also the name, so you can proactively approach a person. I've seen you have a problem. How can I help you? So that is boosting the efficiency and also the efficiency of the administrator, because he sees a bit more what is really happening, and the message is a bit consolidated. Yeah, great improvement. So these are the 3 scenarios that we want to share with you. Then before we go into the next feature, I would like to describe it. It's like this. If I have my computer, I want to use a captive portal, I have a username and a password, I log in. The annoying thing a bit is that I have to do this every day. So what can we do about it?
So if you as a company have that scenario, you come to office, you want to connect to Wi-Fi, you need to enter a captive portal and enter username and password.
Yes.
Let me share my screen again. So here we have the scenario description again. And what we are doing now is we provide a function that allows us to push the client's MAC address to the authentication server.
Yeah.
So if your radio server, for example, allows to store MAC addresses from successful logged-in users, we are now supporting that. And a client that has already been connected successfully doesn't need to enter his username and password again.
So his MAC address will be stored. Where do we store the MAC address?
It is stored on the radio server. And we are not doing that. We are just pushing the information to the radio server, and the administrator of the radio server needs to take care that this is stored to the user.
So the configuration of the radio server needs to be done separately.
Yes.
That's clear. Nevertheless, we also get the information of the MAC address and know exactly which clients we can allow access without adding the username and password again.
Right.
Nice.
So this is again just a checkbox here in Nebula.
Yeah.
But of course, it requires some additional information and configuration on the external radio server.
Yeah.
We can see here in the packet capture that the MAC address has been pushed as username and password, and it's on the administrator's responsibility then to configure his server.
What happens if you go one slide back? If I enable it, but I don't have a radio server in place, what happens?
If the auth fails, it will fall back to the captive portal again.
Okay, that's important to know. So if it doesn't work because of whatever reason, I didn't finalize the configuration or whatever, then there is still the captive portal that's coming up and working fine.
Right.
Perfect.
So small feature was a feature request from a French customer, and it's now implemented.
Nice. So whenever you have a feature request, let us know. Yeah, you can open a support request for that, or you can write us somehow. We will make sure that this is heard by our development organization, and we take it from there.
Yep. A lot of features are made from feature requests of the customer, so it's always worth to open a ticket and ask for something if you have a project or any special need.
Yeah. It might take some time. It might also be that we cannot fulfill every wish, of course, but it's definitely very good to make yourself heard and share your thoughts with us. Great. Having said that, one question we got from Lucas last time.
Yeah, it was a question asked in the last TECHtalk or over our support portal. So can I upgrade my previous Wi-Fi 6 APs to Wi-Fi 6E?
And the answer is
no.
Unfortunately, no.
No new antenna formats. No new chipsets. Possibility is no, it's not possible. There's no possibility.
The good thing is though that if you have a Wi-Fi 6 access point already, you can run the newest software then 6.4 on it and make use of the new features.
But of course, what you can do is you can run new Wi-Fi 6E access points simultaneously to your existing environment because it's not interfering in the new band.
Correct.
If you configure your Wi-Fi 6E access point just on the 6 gigahertz,
yes,
you can let it run simultaneously.
So that is just hook it up next to the other one. There's no interference then, and you can make of the 6E standard immediately.
Right.
There is also our email address again. If you have any feedback that you would like to share, academy.zyxel.eu, and we are happy to receive your feedback.
Right.
So summer is coming up. We are making a summer break, and we are back in September. And we decided, because we get so many questions related to our new firewalls and implementation, that we will start a new series, a basic series about firewalls. Because you have selected object as a first topic. Why is that?
It's often asked by the customers and often misunderstood how our firewalls work. So we will start from the bottom and then going up. So we have objects, we have security policies, we have routing, we have NAT.
All the licenses and all the things.
We will go through everything on our devices, and I think we will have a high attendance rate, same like with this basic VLAN TECHtalk which we had, which was very, very popular.
Yep.
So we will go more in the practical direction and show it hands-on on the devices.
And it should never stop you to ask questions if you would like to have a topic presented in the TECHtalk, then we can do this. And before we close, I would like to mention again that we also have our value-added services. If you go to our support portal, support.zyxel.eu, you add value-added services, then you find a number of services where it's also described a bit more. We don't want to leave you alone. You never walk alone, and you have the possibility to look into services which are available, and we do the configuration jointly. But the nice part in this is that we really explain actively, and we will take time how it's configured, because we want you to learn it, that you can do it the next time by yourself.
Yeah, it's always including a personal training.
Yes,
I can say that. Yeah.
So please make use of that if you are a bit, let's say, shy on how do I do a firewall configuration? I've always used the access points, but not the firewalls. Then this is your opportunity to do that. Yes, and you can follow us on LinkedIn or YouTube. This video will also be published on YouTube again. We will edit it a bit, and then we will publish it during today. So you can subscribe to our channel there, as well as you can watch the video and leave some comments. And talking about comments, do we have other further questions?
So you have some time now to ask any question. Currently, there's nothing. So
we were too clear, too fast, or something.
Some feedback about the sound quality. We will work on that. Sure.
Thank you very much for that. Yes. Great, Christoph. It was a pleasure to have you here again at this Zyxel studio in Germany. And I like the Wi-Fi 6 implementation a lot. The new access points are coming next month already.
I'm very excited for the new devices, also to have the hands-on on them. So.
And I'm pretty sure we'll see more and more devices implementing 6E, and this will speed up our speed on the devices, which we can use quite a lot. So that's great.
Good.
Thank you very much. Let's close here and see you next time. Enjoy the summer. Bye-bye.
See you in September. Bye.
We're Zyxel, and we're your networking ally.